Welcome to another episode of Recruitment mini-series that we are hosting at Horizon, where we are just sharing our best strategies and tips and tools for candidates who are applying at Horizon, or frankly speaking, even if you're applying somewhere else, these tips and strategies are just as valid. And this really came from our kind of push to engage our candidates a little bit more, but also to provide resources, because we realize a lot of people spend many years without going through interviews, and we totally understand that this might be new waters for a lot of people going through the process. So we want to make sure that we provide as much information as possible as Horizon to the candidates that we work with, and really just make sure you guys have a great experience through the interview process. So today's topic is actually around the federal space and clearances, because as a government contractor, Horizon does a lot of work within that space. So we recruit for kind of cleared roles, and really just roles that require a lot of background investigation and so on. And I think it's something useful for candidates to hear about. So Fazla Zarouk is going to take us into this conversation. But first of all, Fazla, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Elena. So I'm Fazla Zarouk. I've been at Horizon for 14 years. It'll be 14 years in October. I've been a recruiter for about 12, and I'm also the assistant FSO, and I'll be happy to give an overview of the clearance process. So the very first step is you need to have a job offer from an employer who really requires access to classified information, and the level of clearance needed depends on the sensitivity of the information that you'll be handling. The second step is the application process. So once you have a job offer, your employer will initiate the clearance process by submitting a clearance application on your behalf. And this usually involves filling out extensive forms providing personal information, employment history, contacts, etc. And in our case at Horizon, we don't typically sponsor a clearance because of the time that it takes for a clearance to be processed. And it can take anywhere from a couple of months to up to a year. So once the clearance application has been submitted, the background investigation begins. And the background investigation is conducted by the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, also known as DCSA. This investigation typically includes checks of your criminal record, credit history, interviews with references, neighbors, and sometimes even family members. Once the background check process has been completed, your case goes through what's called an adjudication, where a decision is made about whether you are eligible for a security clearance based on factors like allegiance to the United States, foreign influence, criminal conduct, substance use, etc. After that step, you'll be granted a clearance. You'll be granted one of three different levels of security clearance. So the first, it could be confidential, secret, or top secret. And the level that you'll be granted really depends on the sensitivity of the information you need to access for your job. Access and maintenance is another step in maintaining your clearance, which requires ongoing maintenance, including periodic reinvestigations and compliance with security protocols. And there's another program called the continuous evaluation, used by some government agencies to continuously monitor the eligibility of individuals who hold security clearances. So instead of waiting for periodic reinvestigations, the CE program uses automated checks of various databases to identify any new information that may affect an individual's security clearance eligibility. That's just the general overview of obtaining and maintaining a security clearance.
Thank you, Fazla. Just a question for me. What is the biggest, I guess, challenge that candidates might have going through this process? Have you seen anything that just like it tends to be quite repetitive across board? Is there anything, any tips you can give, like how to avoid some of those things?
Well, basically, I think the most, I think filling out the extensive number of paperwork that is part of the application, I think is the most challenging. But basically, if you have like a clean record, other than the paperwork, there's nothing really that could stop you from obtaining one. And of course, as I mentioned before, you have to have a job offer that requires a clearance. That's the only way that you can apply, get one.
Okay, well, thank you, Fazla, so much for the information you shared today. Until next time.